I knew Wes Watson was a flake before I even never watched any of the prison genre channels. Because one of his videos, like, he doesn't respond to nobody when they attack him, but he actually responded a little bit. I don't see why people have to talk about other people. You can't discredit what's being put out there. That's straight from the Department of Corrections. You can't deny that. He ain't ran no prison yard. I may be what I am, but I've ran prison yards. You know what I'm saying? I was part of an organization. I recruited people. I've really had people and stuff like that. This dude hasn't.
And I came across you because you did a video on Wes Watson.
Oh yeah.
Right. So how did that come about? Like,
I knew Wes Watson was a flake before I even never watched any of the prison genre channels, right? A lot of these dudes that came on back then they're fake, man. All these dudes that, like, they were never part of no gangs or organizations. They were just inmates that just sat there and did whatever they needed to do. They were the base limit convicts. All these dudes that have 500,000 to 1 million subscribers, they were nobodies in the game. So when I see Wes Watson, I never want to attack him because I have nothing against. I have no hate towards him.
right.
But he's fake. His stories. When I heard the story he did about the shoe, and I was in the shoe indeterminate. He's talking about the Southsiders are up at 3:30. I never seen the Southsiders get up past 5:45 ever. You know what I'm saying? He's talking about fucking how they put him in this, all this shit that he's talking, man. I'm like, man, this dude's full of it. Like, just everything he's saying, you could just tell. And he's talking about how dominant his group. I'm like, dude, your group's not even the top 3 as far as the most dominant groups in the prison system. Let's be real. You know, you're not going to run nothing by no Northerners. You're going to do whatever the Southsiders tell you to do in most places. So quit trying to pretend. And then when I started hearing the level 4 stuff, I got at somebody I know who knows how to get at somebody to get the records pulled. And so they pulled it. And so if you look at it, it shows Donovan, which was reception, which is, he said he went to Donovan. He said he went from Centinela before he went to the shoe, he said. And then he said he went to Centinela before he went to Arizona. It doesn't show he ever went to Centinela. It shows he went straight from fucking Donovan to fucking Arizona. You know what I'm saying? So I'm looking at all this stuff and I'm watching his videos and I'm like, I already knew he was full of shit, but I'm like, dude, this shit right here just fucking proves everything he says he's full of shit. He never was no level 4. The officer that gave this to the person I know said that he never did no shoot time. There's no shoot time that he allegedly claimed, so it's all bullshit. So I'm like, you know what, man? I dropped it for 2 reasons. One, it's gonna get fucking views.
All right.
Be real. That was the number one reason why I dropped it, because sometimes, hey, there's some things we need that bump in our channel for that week. You know, you could have 100,000 subscribers, but only getting 2,000 on the videos sometimes.
Yeah.
Okay. You could have 20,000 subscribers, but every video is hitting 30, 40. So that right there will give me the jump. I know it. 2, why not? Why not tell people what the truth? You know, I'm not hating on what he accomplished. I'm saying that the dude's a fake. You know, it's like if you went to whatever training seminar, or you're a sports fanatic and you want to go to some quarterback school, you know, you think you're getting fucking coached by fucking Joe Montana, man, but literally, you know, you're getting fucking coached by a fucking high school quarterback. That's right. The reality of it. And that's up for people to make the decision if they want to support him or not. That's up to them. Maybe he's a good motivator. I mean, I wouldn't let nobody talk to me the way he talks to people. You know what I mean? We'd be having issues, straight up.
Right.
You know? And when I see it, I'm like, fuck, man, can't these people like... And people, it's funny, though, some people will defend him, though. Like, like, fuck, it's like, why they got Wes Watson like that? It's like, come on, man. You know, he's nothing that he portrays to be. You know, I did a video about him, you know, paying the AB. I'm like, I never said that he had to pay the AB. He said it on No Jumper. He's the one that made that first statement. Oh, I could just throw some money if I go back in this, that. No, you're not. They're going to fucking whack the shit out of you, man. You know what I'm saying? He was never on the level 4. He paroled from a CCF, level 2. So at the end of that, it just shows up to 2015. That shows the last place he was housed in Arizona. I don't know when he came back to the States, but he came back, I think, to a CCF. So he had to go through reception. So I heard he went through Delano, they told me. So from Delano, then he went to the CCF, which is not even a prison. Those are fucking private owned fucking camps, basically.
Right.
So he was never in no shoe. He was never on no level 4 yard, and he was out of state. That's all there is to it. He wasn't running no yard. I don't think he was a punk or nothing, but he was not the man that he portrays to be on fucking YouTube.
Right. Well, I mean, listen, there's lots of guys like that. You know, there's lots of, you know, you hear the stories and it's like, that doesn't sound right. Like, I don't see how you're behaving this way in prison. And I don't see these stories that you're, I'm not saying they're not true, but I don't see all these different things happen to you. And, you know, and look, I got people that, people send me emails and they contact me on Instagram, and, they'll shoot me, we shoot messages back and forth. But, and guys are like, listen, like they're saying all kinds of stuff about him. Like, look, that he ended up getting some kind of a benefactor right away that basically has him put him up so he can shoot videos in like a condo, so that he's driving a vehicle that it's not his. Like, there's all these things, like it's the whole fake it till you make it, and that's, I get it. Some people do that, but I also kind of get his story too, because let's face it, had I gotten out of prison and never mentioned that I cooperated, I could have said I filed 2 2255s, got my sentence reduced twice. I could have come up with some bullshit story. I got 26 years, but I ended up meeting this guy, and he filed 2 2255s for me. Got, 7 years knocked off my sentence and 5 years knocked off my sentence, and could have come up with some bullshit reason. Nobody's going to check. Nobody's going to go pull up Pacer and look. So I could have done all that, but I just thought, what?
Transparency. You got to be transparent.
Right. Well, you know what I thought was, and this happened in prison. I kind of thought, you know what? Like, all your bullshit, lies, and fraud got you here. And I remember my buddy Pete telling me this. My buddy Pete said, you cannot go to prison, continue to behave the way you did prior to prison, get out of prison, and not expect to come back to prison. And I thought, all my bullshit fraud, all these scams, all these lies, if you get out and you continue bullshitting people, you're going to end up back in fucking prison. So you know what? If you have to tell the truth and you're going to get some shit for it, you're going to get some shit for it. Fucking say it. Be honest. Be one of the only honest guys out there. And the people that matter will appreciate that.
Yeah.
The people that don't matter won't, and fuck them.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think that's the same. Seems like the same.
You know what's funny though? Like, he finally did not respond to it, but he gave a little response to it. If you notice.
Oh yeah. What was it on? What?
It's one of his videos. Like, he doesn't respond to nobody when they attack him, but he actually responded a little bit. I don't see why people have to talk about other people. You're fucking fake, man. You know what I mean? Accept it, bro. I mean, like, now you're going to discredit it? You can't discredit what's being put out there. That's straight from the Department of Corrections. You can't deny that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
It's like the Liver King. Like, bro, you've got an amazing fucking physique. He's doing a bunch of stuff. Like, why are you going to lie about the steroids? Just say you're fucking doing like it's part of your scam. That's why.
Yeah.
I just rather not. I'd rather not be that person.
No, and he's gonna get his supporters, right? Some people, why you gotta hate on the man? It's not even hating on the man. It's just keeping it real. If I can be transparent about my story, which is gonna get a lot more criticism than anything he's done, right?
Right.
Why can't he be real about his? He ain't ran no prison yard. I may be what I am, but I've ran prison yards. You know what I'm saying? I was part of an organization. I recruited people. I've really had people stabbed in prison and stuff like that. This dude hasn't.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? There's no credibility there. Me, I may have done what I did because I felt what I did was the right thing for my family. Whether people agree with it or not, I don't care. It was right for me and my family. But at the end of the day, you can't discredit everything that I've been through or what I done or who I was. You know what I'm saying? It's all right there. So right. People are going to hate either way. And with him, it's like, man, fuck, I wish I would have gotten YouTube sooner.
Where are you now? Are you in California, or are you in?
I'm in Arizona right now.
Okay.
Everybody
were you raised in California?
California, Bay Area to be exact.
Okay.
Small town, Milpitas, California, which is on the outskirts of San Jose. So I had everything. Oakland this way, San Jose this way, San Francisco, just in the center of the Bay. Small community, very diverse as far as different races. You had Mexicans, you had blacks, you had Filipinos, you had Asians, you had everything. So I didn't really grow up in a very racial environment. It was one of those very diversified environments.
Right. What about your parents? What did they do for a living?
Okay, well, my dad was a car salesman at the time, right? He was actually the general manager at Stevens Creek European, which at that time they were only the second dealership that did European cars. So this is in the midst of the 80s and 90s.
Right.
So, and he was a general manager there, and it was ran by some Armenians that, I remember their names, Philip and Marduk, right? That was their names. And, man, they were doing a lot of illegal things back then. You know what I'm saying? It was a whole different type of era. a lot of the local drug dealers, like in Richmond and Seaside and all that, used to go in there and what they would do is they would lay $10,000-$20,000 at a time and lease a car for a couple months and get a demo.
Right.
Because it'd be Lamborghinis, Ferraris, and all that kind of stuff. And I remember as a kid, man, young, man, my dad would come home with like a suitcase, all kinds of money. He never got arrested for anything. You know what I'm saying? Right. Later on, as I got older, I asked him, man, what was all that money about? That's what he told me was what they used to do back then was the drug dealers, this is in the 80s, they would lease the cars to him. Because they couldn't purchase them because the feds would try to get them for tax evasions at that time. So, but that's how my dad was. You know, he was a big man, very violent, very abusive. But he tried his best. My mom, she was raised in a military family. She was a real estate broker later on in life. So, but at first she was just a regular stay-at-home mom. And she was a victim of domestic violence as well. You know what I'm saying? So it was like one of those households where you're scared what you have to say in the house because you don't know what's going to make dad tick at the time. You know what I'm saying? I was one of those ones that just wanted attention and shit, man. Like, I remember I would sit there and wait for him to come home, and he would just come here, rub my head, and just go on about his business and shit, man. So I had one younger brother and then one older sister. My sister, she ran as soon as she could, man. My brother was about 3 years younger and stuff, and he kind of didn't go down the same path as me, but he started to suffer from drug addiction shit. You know what I'm saying? And now he's doing good, man. He has a YouTube channel too. He has like over 30,000 subscribers. He has a business where he's making over $200,000 a year, and you know, we all went different ways, you know?
Right. So sometimes it takes time to equal out, you know what I'm saying? Sometimes you got to hit rock bottom, go through some shit before you go, listen, this isn't working. Like, I'm better off with less than, you know what I mean? Like, I'm better off with less and just living a better life than what I'm doing. Just something takes a lot. Sometimes it takes a lot for people to get there.
Most definitely.
So,
go ahead.
No, I was going to say, so, I mean, like, when you went to high school, did you stay in that area, or did your parents stay together? I mean, what?
Well, we'll get to that. It's kind of interesting, right? You know, being a neglected kid, right? I always wanted attention and shit, so I didn't really have any male figures, really, male role models in my life. And that, like 5-6 years old and stuff, right? My dad elected to put me in T-ball, right? And this is a true story, right? So the first T-ball game, right, when I went to run, right, I was running like a fucking girl, right?
Right.
It horrified my dad and everything. So immediately, that following week, I was in Taekwondo. So I was at West Coast Taekwondo, and that kind of took me in a whole different way. You know what I mean? That's when he started to get involved in my life. I used to compete, do demos, and all that kind of stuff as a young kid. But it was kind of interesting that, you know, before that, you know, you had to have been there, man. Like being as a kid, like I was neglected, so I didn't know the basic things to do. Even when I went to prison, there were certain things as a man that I didn't know I was supposed to do. You know what I mean? I didn't know how to shave right. I didn't know certain things that each father was supposed to show you. And I don't know if it was contributed to my dad not knowing because of the way he was raised. He was raised down south. You know what I'm saying? With he had his mom was Native American and his dad was crippled from polio. And she was underage, I guess, and she had 3 kids with him, and she ran off with a preacher. Imagine that. You know what I'm saying? Right. So, you know, he came from one of those hardline type of lifestyle. So nowadays, when I talk about all this stuff, I don't have no hate towards my dad or my mom. It is what it is. You know, I think that they did the best that they could at the moment. That's my feeling.
Right. So how did that, you know, develop? I mean, did you, so the Taekwondo, I'm assuming, kind of toughened you up a little bit, and then you end up in middle school,
and by then I was always, you know, fighting, getting in trouble. I would go to the extreme. I was an attention seeker, so I like the attention. Right. You know, I do things at school just because I want to be attention, to be popular and whatnot. Get in fights. You know, the gang stuff came up later on around 8th grade, 9th grade. That's when the gang lifestyle started. And by then, they had already gone through a split. My mom was, like I said, she was a homebody. And this was around 1990, I think. '89. She got her real estate license and stuff. And so I'm pretty sure, as a real estate agent in the beginning, you don't always make money unless you're selling houses.
No,
You know what I'm saying? And
takes
so
time.
So my dad had all the money. My brother went with my dad. I went with my mom. And my brother over there had everything. We were over there struggling. I was already selling dope by the time I was like 14, 15 years old, just to have clothes.
How did that come about? Were neighborhood kids you saw them doing it? Somebody approach you? Like,
Just the neighborhood, just growing up in the neighborhood and wanted to experiment, looking at the older homeboys and wanted to be just like them. And it's just, you gravitate towards where you get acceptance, and
Right.
That's just how it was for me. Is I was one of those kids where I was running away, but I was already like 12 years old, 13 years old. I was living on the side of the freeways. And it wasn't that I came from a bad home, though. Don't get me wrong, as far as financially wise. It was just the things that were going on at home that were not good. It had nothing to do, like, people don't understand that. It had nothing to do with the financial part of it. Later on, it was. With my mom, we were struggling. But at the beginning, it wasn't always like that. So I didn't come from we were middle class, Basically, my dad spent what he wanted to spend his money on. And basically, if we didn't have nothing coming, we had nothing coming. That's just how it was.
It doesn't sound good.
No, it wasn't good. It wasn't good.
Yes. So you're fighting for the scraps, or fighting just to stay alive, to get enough to keep yourself going. So what happened, in high school? Like, if you're selling drugs, and this is in middle school?
No, that was middle school, high school.
Okay, so you're selling drugs. I mean, are you just doing it to, just to get enough money, or are you actually thinking, hey, I can turn this into something? Or you getting?
No, I got caught doing it, right? And I told my mom why I was doing it, and then she figured out a way to get some clothes. You know what I'm saying? Because before, I'd have to borrow clothes from the homeboys from my neighborhood sometimes, right? Like, the shoes would be fucking too small, like my feet would be bleeding, or the pants wouldn't fit. I'd have to find a way to fucking sag them or do whatever I could, because we just didn't have nothing, and
Right.
We made do with what we had. And it was just, how it is in high school. If you start to have you never have kids used to put patches over the holes the moms did. You start doing
Right.
that stuff in high school. When you're in high school, man, people are gonna make fun of you. So I would do what I could and get what I could, because I was never a good thief. I was never one of those ones that go in there and go to Kmart or whatever it was back then and steal fucking a whole bunch of clothes. I just couldn't do it. I'd get caught. You know what I'm saying? So selling drugs was a little bit easier for me.
So how long did that go on? I mean, did you end up graduating high school, or did you get caught before that? Like,
I ended up, I didn't finish high school. I ended up going to the boys' ranch,
for what?
for assault with a deadly weapon, a knife.
What was that? What happened there?
Not a long story, right?
I got the time.
It had to do with my sister and her boyfriend at the time, and they were a little bit older. I was about 16 years old, and I was coming down off some crank, I think, at the time, and I didn't want to go to school, so I wasn't going to go to school. I wanted to sleep, and so her and her boyfriend were trying to wake me up, and they started saying I was on drugs, and so I grabbed a fucking knife and I started chasing after her and her boyfriend, right? And then fucking they just took off running. And so I go back into the house. I go to sleep. All I just want to do is sleep. Next thing you know, I wake up. I got my police department with a gun straight at my head. I'm only like 16 years old. I'm like, oh shit. So they got me for assault with a deadly weapon. From there, I went to juvenile hall. I was going in and out of juvenile hall all the time for stolen cars, just stupid stuff at the time, right? Nothing major yet. Nothing major until I went to prison, But at that time, I was just trying to fit in. Joyriding, beer runs, stuff like that's what I was doing. It was basically innocent, not innocent stuff, but teenage type of stuff. We've all done that. Beer runs, smoking weed, breaking into abandoned apartments to go kick with some females, stuff like that. That was the level of crimes I was committing.
But you ended up and you said kind of like the boys' ranch?
Yeah, the boys' ranch.
How long was that for?
For juvenile, I think I was there for 15 months.
Whoa.
But that's because I ran twice.
So, okay, so you're you understand, like, most kids, they get in trouble. If they do get in trouble, they get probation and then that's it. But you ended up with a 15-month sentence.
15 month sentence. Well, it wasn't. It was based upon how good you did. The program I had to do was only 3.5 months. I turned it into a 15-month sentence. I'm lucky I didn't go to youth authority, which was prison basically for juveniles, because I caught assault with a deadly weapon when I was in the juvenile hall. I hit some dude. A little melee happened with some Sudanos, right, which is a rival gang, and I ended up hitting one with a chair.
Okay. So you were already in a gang
Yeah.
at this point.
Yeah.
And how did that happen? Did you approach them? They approached you?
They approached us one night. One night we were just kicking back with a couple of the older homeboys, and, they started drinking, right? And they're getting riled up. So they wanted to go fight somebody or jump somebody in. So they ended up jumping me and another homeboy in that night. And it's just like any other gang, they just take off on you for about 45 seconds, 60 seconds, bunch of kicks, bunch of, they were wearing steel toe, so it was pretty bad. I remember I couldn't even feel my hands afterwards, and I didn't get one good hit in her at all. But I was probably about 14 years old at that time.
Okay. So you end up in whatever, the boys ranch. I keep wanting to say juvie, but in the boys ranch, and it drags out for 15 months.
Yeah.
Which is ridiculous. So you get out. I mean, you didn't graduate high school I guess you were pretty young.
Well, I ended up put it this way. I had to go to the county jail to get the time done. I actually never graduated the program because I actually ran the last time right before I was 18, and they caught me. So I had to do 60 days in the county jail. I went from juvenile hall to the county jail. And this is when I was like, I was a kid. This is in the 90s, and I don't know what to expect. I still won't forget that. That was a very scary time at first. You know what I'm saying? Because you're hearing all the stories about dudes raping young kids and shit like that, and,
Right.
getting abused and all that, and you don't know what to expect. So I remember they walked me from juvenile hall to the county jail, and then they sent me to one section that was actually where I'm from, my city, right? But it was like a big dorm with like 200 grown men, all been to prison. And it was just a whole different atmosphere from going from the boys' ranch to juvenile hall to now county jail.
Was county jail better?
It ended up being better. You know what I'm saying? At first, I was a little nervous, right? But after a couple of people that knew me, that kind of made it a little bit easier, and just the more access to walk around and do what you wanted to do. But it was totally different. Whereas in juvenile hall, it was more structured for us. County jail was, to do as you want, pretty much.
Yeah, it's just trying to keep yourself occupied.
Yeah.
So the worst part about being in prison is trying to just keep yourself occupied and entertained, because there's just nothing to do. Well, in jail anyway. In prison, at least you can go out to the yard. You can, there's some stuff to do, but still, it's a lot of downtime. So when you got out, like, what's your mom saying, bro? What is your mom saying? Is she coming to see you and saying, like, shape up? What are you doing?
Man, she couldn't control me at that time. Nobody could. I got to that point where I didn't care, and it didn't matter. And you know what I'm saying? I feel bad now, but like, there's nothing she could do. She pretty much had to write it out. Like, I knew she cared, but there was nothing that she seen that she could do that would change anything. And like, I was the one that she worried the most out of all her kids was me. You know what I'm saying? I'm the middle kid. So I'm over there. I'm first week out of county jail, my car gets shot up out there, getting the shootout. You know what I'm saying? We're having we had a shootout at my house as well. You know what I'm saying? So like, I think the first month we had about, let me see, there was about 4 or 5 shootings that we had that were all involving me. One of them was my car. And what ended up, I was only out for about 6 months, and that's when I caught a drive-by shooting and ended up catching my prison case. And then lo and behold, my mom was actually selling the house, right? The house that we lived in. I did the drive-by shooting in her car, right? I thought I got away with it smooth, right? I'm a kid, right? I thought I got away with it smooth. So as I'm coming, I won't ever forget it. I got another homeboy, and I see all the cops come. The cops come out of nowhere and on the house. They had me, they had my mom, it was my homeboy all at gunpoint. Basically, made us do all that stuff, right? And I come out like one of those guys on cops. What are you guys doing here? What are you guys doing here? Like, like a young kid, like a fucking idiot, right? Excuse my language. And they got me. And on that case right there, the bad thing about that case was everything went wrong. Not only were they not in the house at the time we did the shooting, they were right. Their mom was driving right behind me as we had the gun out the window shooting at the house. So I ended up getting a 5-year prison term on that. And that was my first stint in prison was based upon that shooting.
So real quick, the shooting, this is basically what, like you're like guys in the gang saying, hey, we're going to go shoot up this house. These are rivals or something.
Yeah.
Basic. Okay. So so you get 5 years. Where do they send you? Where is it? This is in California. So where do you go first? Like in there, like a step.
They have a reception center. I mean, like I went to San Quentin Reception Center. This was in the 90s. I forgot what year it was, but I fought it for a little bit, right? And when I was fighting it, I pled guilty, took a deal, right? I ended up I almost caught another assault with a deadly weapon, attempted murder, when I was in the county jail, right? Just pled guilty, and they tried to get me for a slicing where dude got sliced from ear to ear, right? And I'm a kid, and this is an interesting story too, right? It all started over. I was watching the TV, and there's this one dude, man. He used to come in there, and he was a big old dude, like one of those dudes you see like in the prison movies, that's fat with a big old mustache like this. He's fighting 3 strikes, right? And I just didn't like him though because he was always getting pulled out by the cops at different hours working. He was always in the cops' ear. It just looked funny to me, right? And this was about 96. So back then there was no structured politics really in the county jail, right? You could sleep all day, you could get high if you wanted, you could do whatever you want. It's not like that nowadays. So everybody's asleep, and I'm up and I'm watching X-Men, the cartoon. Now, this guy goes up to the TV and he changes it to fucking NASCAR racing. Now today I like NASCAR racing, and I didn't know sports always take precedent over everything else. I didn't know this. But I thought he was disrespecting me, so I went and broke my razor, came from behind, I hit him from ear to ear. Bam. And then I hit him again right there, and then I kicked him right while he was standing up. He was a big old fat dude. And, I feel like I made him look like a bitch, right? And I went back to go to sleep, right? And so...
Did you think he was just going to walk away and be okay with it?
See, I was a young kid. I didn't think that there was, like jailhouse informants and snitches like that. I didn't know that right off top they were going to know who it was within like a half hour.
Right.
I mean, they came, and I will never forget it. They pulled me out first, and they came back, and they read me my rights. And, I started acting up because I just pled guilty, like I said, to a drive-by shooting. And so I started hitting my head on the window and acted all tough and crazy. The cops, fuck you motherfuckers. And they came in, they beat the shit out of me. They beat the shit out of me, man. They had me all tied up with all kinds of like chains and stuff like that. And were basically dragging me. Because I was only about, I only weighed about 135 pounds. I was like 6'2" back then. Right? I was a skinny, scrawny kid. And then I see our old paper boy. He sees me. So I'm like, oh shit. He's wondering what's going on, right? Because he works, I guess, somewhere with a free staff there. So for about a week, they were trying to get me to admit that I stabbed this dude. They were coming back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And I was like, I don't know what to tell you guys. And they even tried to send him in there. And then finally they told me, it's going to be interesting because I actually ran into this dude years later in prison, right? They actually tell me, like, look, the dude told us that you stabbed him, but he doesn't want to be on paperwork as a snitch. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So basically, we're done with you.
Yeah.
All right. Okay, cool. So that right there, they were trying to get me for attempted murder, but they just couldn't file the charges because he didn't want to be on paperwork.
Right.
But I think he got like about 72 or 172 stitches, somewhere in that range, staples and all that. Nothing I'm proud of today though, at all.
So then what? After you stay after you stay at the reception center, and what are they? I'm sure your classification must have been, that didn't help your classification. Where'd they send you?
Send me to Solano, level 3. Level 3.
Okay. How do the levels work?
Basically, I think it was 0 to, I forgot, could be wrong. 0 to 17, I think was level 1. I think it was like 18 to 31 was like level 2 or something like that. And then 32 to 51 was level 3. And then 52 and over was level 4. I know 52 and over was level 4 because I ended up with like 100 some points at the end. I started, I think, with only like 30 points. So
saying like so the first level, is that like kind of like a low, a medium? Okay, so basically you went straight to basically what, like a pin?
Yeah. Yes,
Okay.
I'm living so
Not the highest level pin, but a pin.
yes.
Okay. I'm trying to think of the federal system. I'm thinking, low, medium, pin.
Probably like let me see, you have the USPs, FCI. FCIs are what, cell living, right?
It depends. Yeah. I mean, typically, yeah, there's cells, but there can be, it can be like the low I was at was it was open bay,
Mm-hmm.
but it was a low. Now at the mediums, they're all cells. You got the stainless steel combo toilet sink in there. They close it. They can feed you through the doors. They don't ever have to let you out.
Okay.
Or they would have to let you out for a shower.
So
That'd be it.
this would be a step below USP,
Okay.
basically. I know CCF. So I went to Solano and was there, and that was just that was nothing but drugs and prison politics. That's all it was on that yard. It was off the hook. I never seen so much drugs ever just in one prison. And this was one prison to where we actually had, our numbers were pretty good. You know what I'm saying? As compared to other places where they're not so good. As you know, Sudeos are probably the more dominant as far as population-wise in the California system when it comes between the two groups. But Solano was actually a place where we had the numbers. So it was a little bit different experience at first. And, I was there for about, 10 months, and we ended up getting off with some NLR cats, some Nazi lowriders.
Okay, can you say that again? I don't understand. What
I was there for 10 months until we ended up getting off with some Nazi lowriders.
What does that mean, getting off with?
Fighting, melee.
Okay.
They rushed me in the homeboy.
Okay. Why? Any specific reason?
I think that they feel offended, right? Because about 2 months before, we had to go get at them about being on our side of the yard, politics. And it was me and homeboy.
Right.
And we're both young, we're both scrawny, we both have pale skin, so they're not liking that. And they planned it, and we were doing the same program every day, which was part of our security procedures. We were going to go get the reports from every building at the last yard. So this was night yard. So every night we were doing the same thing. We were going to this building, that building, that building. All they had to do was watch what we were doing. We were doing the same routine every day. So I won't ever forget, man. It was me and another YouTuber, Homie Hangout, Rascal. I don't know if you ever watched his channel.
Remember.
So we're walking, and next thing you know, all I know is I just hit this dude, this big old, they call them Tommy guns. He just fucking takes off on me. I get hit so fucking hard that this is the one time that in prison where I got broken off. I got hit and I dropped. I tried to get up again, and he hit me again. I dropped. So I had to do a somersault backwards to get on my feet. And I'm a kid, and so my punches were jello. I was fighting to survive, just to live another day. Same thing with him over there. These dudes pretty much put hands on us pretty bad, man. They had that man strength. We were just fucking barely 18, 19 at the time.
Right.
Yeah.
And 6'2" and 135, 145 pounds, right?
Yeah. It'd be a fun outcome nowadays, but but then you got to give it to them. They gave it to us. You know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna sit there. A lot of dudes, they always win every fight. Nah, we got broken off. I had a broken nose, and they thought I was hit at first, and I was pissed off though because I'd never been in a position where it was that bad. We're basically fucking just got dusted by some dudes pretty bad. And I told myself, I said, I'm never gonna let that happen again, ever. I'm always gonna be like 5 steps ahead, and I was. Ever since I was 5 steps ahead.
So, what happened? Do you guys get thrown in the shoe? I mean, how do you cover that up? Like, how do you not have that reported?
Oh, they got us. They ran to the yard. They put us in handcuffs, took us to the whole right spot.
Because sometimes guys will get into a fight and then they'll try and stay in their cell until the bruising goes down. They'll try, and it never really works. But that kind of stuff.
So they took us to the hole, and that was it. Went to our committee hearing, got found guilty, and then they sent me out. They sent me to a prison called CMC East, which is in San Luis Obispo. And this is a trip. They came and did a special transfer. They transferred me out as the sole person by myself with 2 correction officers in a car. I never experienced that ever. Like they even stopped in the middle of some small town called Gilroy to let me use the restroom, and they get out with the guns and let me go take a piss real quick. They bought me a soda, and they were pretty cool. But they were trying to get information off me as we're taking the trip. And I think the reason why they did a single transfer was they were going to the state hospital, which was, I think, the Tascadero, to bring somebody back somewhere else. So I think it was just a matter of convenience. But at that time, I felt special. So I get to this yard, and, I've already known that there's no really of my people there. But I got to find out if there's any there. So I go to R&R, and I ask them, is there any Northerners here? And Northerners, I mean Norteños. And they said, I think. I'm like, fuck, man. That's not a good sign, right? And I have this little Mongolian right here. I'm in shirt, and I have my jack flats on. It's cold and stuff. It's right by the ocean. Now, bear in mind, I said I'm never going to get caught slipping again. So I go to my cell. In a single cell, it's in an orientation spot on Aquat. So when the pop is open, I go outside, and these dudes come up to me, and they're like smiling, right? They're like, "Oh, we don't play that here." And then they take off. I'm like, "Fuck, we don't play that here." So I want to find out who these dudes are, because I think they're my people. And if they're programming with certain enemies, or, allowing another group to dictate their program, there's going to be issues. That's not how we get down. So I get a cigarette from a black dude. So I go over there, I start talking to this dude, right? And I ask him where he's from. He goes, "Man, I'm from Fresno. I'm a bulldog." That's like one of our number one enemies. I'm like, "Oh shit." So I start to take off, right? So these other guys come up to me, and they tell me, like, "Hey man, the Southsiders are tripping off you because you have a Mongolian." You know what I'm saying? They're gonna want you. The Sudanos want you to cut your tail. I said, "I couldn't shit." And they said, we don't play politics here, and we like to do our thing. We don't like to have problems here." And I told these guys, I go, "Man, get to stepping." You know what I mean? So I already knew I'm by myself, and so as I'm coming across the yard, I'm being called Buster by these like skinheads and Sudanos, and I'm like the only Northerner on the fucking yard, right? They're talking shit over here, and I'm nervous though. And so finally, some dude comes up to me, and he's a Christian. He's from Oakland, from up north, and he goes, "Hey, my family are Norteños, but I'm a Christian." And I go, "Okay, that's cool." He goes, "You got no homeboys here?" I go, "All right." He goes, "Do you believe in the Bible?" I say, "Yeah, but I'm not going to go that route because I respect that." Sorry, you knew what time it was. So when I was going to chow, I didn't know what I was going to do, but I knew I was going to take off on somebody. So every time someone came too close, I was ready to jump. And I was scared. Fear's going to make you react. Let's keep it real. I was in fear of that situation, anytime I could get rushed and stabbed by any one of these dudes, because that whole yard, there's about 300, 400 of them on that yard. So I'm nervous.
Yeah, it's not going to turn. It's just you. It's not going to be good.
It's not going to change.
There's no winning in that situation.
No, but it gets good though. So I go to chow. I remember two young Southsiders. They came right by me. I was jumped right there, and they were tripping because they came too close to me. So I'm in there. I'm looking around everywhere, like I don't know what to think. Like fuck. I couldn't even eat. Couldn't do anything. You get the clammy hand. You get your ass is sweaty. You start to have farts and all that stuff. Those are the type of nerves I had, right? And so I'm going back in, and I remember those dudes that were talking shit to me, right? Dude with tattoos all over his face, right? And I'm like, all right, I'm going to get this fucking dude. I said, I'm at least going to wait. I'm going to get him last, so when they jump on me, I'll be all right. Let me at least get one of them good. So in there, it was levels of floors. So I went by where the seal was at, and I was talking to the seal, right? And I seen when those guys came out, I started stepping away from the seal, and I went towards where they were coming. As he was going up the stairs, as he was the last one, I took flight on him, and I just dropped him to the floor, right? Now, I'm expecting to get jumped on. None of these dudes jumped. Instead, this dude, they came with pepper sprayed me, flew right up the stairs, laid it down. I get an assault with battery on the yard.
Okay.
Assault with battery on the yard. And so I'm tripping, man, because I'm thinking, like, look, how did I get away with this one? Because they should have gave me the business. They should have. And this dude, whoever I took off on that was talking all that shit, he got scared when I took off on him. And it was a programming yard. Nobody wanted to go to the hole. I'm pretty sure you've been in prisons like that where people talk a good one, but when it comes down to it, they don't want to go to the hole. They don't want to go to this other prison because maybe they have some issues they have to answer for. So they're going to try to prevent it. They may act tough, but when it's coming down to it, they're not going to bust a break.
Right.
So from there, I pretty much go to the hole. And I'm young, and I'm one of those ones that's pushing politics all the time and education, and I'm getting at certain homeboys that are there that this is how the program's supposed to be. So some dude comes in from Solano when I was in the hole in Solano that we had told to move on his roommate. and the dude refused to. He said he was going to do it, but when his roommate came back from classification, he didn't do it. So he's a PC. So now he's in the hole, but he doesn't remember me. So I'm telling everybody in there what time it is with dude, and they're like, well, I believe you, but, I got to see the proof and all this stuff. I said, check this out. I go, I'm going to deal with dude. I'll deal with dude. And this is like about 2 weeks after I already got caught the one battery. So they used to shower us. This is the whole, this is different. They used to shower us in groups of four. Right? So I made sure that I was the last one to go in, so I'd be the first one to get my cuffs off. I said, let this dude go first. Jay, you get second, and make sure the other dude below gets third. So I get my cuffs off. I'm not going to take off on dude with his cuffs still on. I'm going to wait. So I sat right there and I waited. And as soon as the cuffs took off, I just took off on him. And they couldn't do nothing about it, man. It was bad because there was no gun tower in the section. They're not going to pop the door to go in there because they have to worry about their own security. So I had every which way I wanted to with this dude. His name was Little Loco from Stockton, Jesse Morales. So I was just kneeing him, dropping him, doing whatever I wanted to do with him. That it got so boring that I stepped away, and that's when they just came in and dragged him out of there. Now for that, I think I was 19 or 20 at the time. These correctional staffs, I had yet to go through any type of infliction of abuse or torment and all that, right? Or fucking them doing a power play. They moved me off that tier and they moved me to a whole nother tier where they put me in the last cell on the only North Daniel. There's 43 cells in this unit. 41 of them are Sureños and 2 of them are NLRs. And they had me in the last cell. So every time I had to go to showers, anytime I had to go to legal law, yard, or anything, these dudes used to talk shit through the fucking chair. They used to fucking try to gas me with piss, and just, it was bad. And I had to go through that for about a year. A year, basically retaliation on their part. And then they validated me as a gang member. Can I get the rest real quick?
Yeah, how does that work? Yeah.
I'll tell you right now.
All right.
So when I was there, this was in 99, I believe. Suge Knight was there in the hole.
Okay.
He was in the medical ward, though. He was in Central, and I was in there to other B-Quad, but I would run into him sometimes when I'd go to visits. Never really talked to him or anything, but he was there at that time. And same stuff was going on when I was there, man. Like I told you, the retaliation by staff. I ended up getting into it with the associate warden. I tried to kick over the table. His name was McAllister. So from there, they put me in a management cell, which was a cell within a cell. They stripped me down butt naked, no mattress, right? No blankets, no running water for a whole fucking week. They came in that day. They go, okay, you're going to be in there a week. Technically, they were only supposed to keep me in there till I seen a psych and let them make the determination. But they made a determination based upon the fact that I tried to kick over a table and I tried to fucking rush the associate warden. My mom had drove all the way up there to visit me that weekend. Like 10, 12 hours, right? They turned her at the gate. Right? She wrote a letter about what happened, about the whole incident, about the running water. How could you leave me in a cell with no running water and all this shit, right? They lied. They said that I incited the riot with a flood. You know what I'm saying? So they tried to cover their ass, man. But they basically, from there, they put me up for IGI review. Stuff came up.
What is that?
Institutional gang investigation.
Okay.
So they were looking at me as a prison gang member. And so they put me up for review. And they used some of the most pettiest stuff that they could. They used a name and PFN number of someone that was my cell in the county jail before I ever went to prison. You guys put me in the cell with them. How am I going to get validated for being in the cell with them?
Right.
You know what I'm saying? They used that. They used some stuff, concept of leadership that I got from a book that I wrote out. That came from an actual book, not no game structure. They used that. And they tried to use some like alleged letters. You know, you used to write other people at other institutions and you write a riddle. They tried to use that, but none of it was really gang related. They had like 6 things. And they submitted it to Sacramento, and they validated me as a prison gang member. But I had to be there for about 13 months.
Okay. So what happened? We had stopped where you said that they made you a. Oh, okay. Now I get it.
I just filled in the blanks right now.
Yeah. That just made sense. Okay. All right. So you're there. So you're basically in the shoe. Well, do they call it the shoe? What do you guys call it? The hole? What?
We call this, okay, there's only 3 shoes in California at that time. There's Pelican Bay shoe, Corcoran shoe, and Tehachapi shoe. All the other ones they call administrative segregation,
Yeah.
which is basically a shoe.
Yeah. So, and you were there for 13 months. Yeah. So are you alone for 13 months? Or you got a cellie?
No, cellie alone.
Do they give you books?
Yeah, we get books.
Okay. I was going to say.
We had no hygiene on our commissary in the hole. I had to brush my teeth with tooth powder for a year.
Fuck.
No deodorant for a year. You know what I'm saying? That was terrible. I don't know how they got away with it.
I was in the shoe for like the longest. I was in the shoe several times, but the longest was like I think 45 days. But listen, the shoe in the feds, you got a hot shower, you got a toilet sink combo. They're constantly coming up and down with the books so you can read books.
Yeah.
And I was probably after about a month or so, I was like bored of reading books because I didn't even have a cellie. They'd go by, they'd be like, Cox, you taking a cellie? And I'd be like, nah, I really don't want a cellie. And then one day, after about a month or so, they came by and they were like, Cox, you want a cellie? And I was like, fuck yeah, put them in here. Like I'm bored out of my mind after a month after just reading. Because listen, the first few weeks I was like, this is not bad. You know, because you've got a shower, like you've got everything you need. You could get commissary. Like not a bunch of commissary, but you know, and you're reading. It's like, fuck, I got to lay down and read. I can do push-ups, lay down, read, take a shower. Like, fuck, this isn't that bad. But listen, after a month or so, I can't imagine.
I couldn't get a cellie. I couldn't get a cellie at the time, right?
Right.
And then I was one of the first ones to be put on walk alone in California at that time when I hit the shoe yard for violence. So they weren't letting me go out to the group yard. They were putting me up on the group yard to go, but when they reviewed my C file, they seen all the assaults I had and stuff, so they wouldn't put me out there on the yard. So that was kind of a bummer. So I think I did like 27 months that time. The last 27 months of the 5 years, I did basically isolated in the hole with no cellie.
I mean, let's face it there, bro. You brought that on yourself. I mean, come on.
No, not complaining about it.
Yeah.
You
know, it's like, what else are they going to do? Every time they put you in a general population, you're fucking trying to attack somebody.
Yeah.
Or you're also just kind of being attacked. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, but I'm sure from the administration's point of view, they're like, fuck, this guy's attacking people. But really, you're concerned about getting attacked.
That's why I got to it with the associate warden. When they said, well, why are you attacking people? I said, I didn't ask to come to this fucking, because back then, there was no such thing as PCs, and half that yard was fucking PC. They'd send you anywhere. And that's what's the whole point. We can't tell you, oh, I can't be on this yard because there's a bunch of dropouts on this yard. I can't tell them that.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I got to go handle my business. And that's what was happening was I was sticking to the code, and I was catching assault after assault after assault. We used to pull that. By the time I left there, I had, not only did I have an Indian terrorist shoe, I had like 3 shoe terms. I had like 100 or some points.
Dude, how many, the problem with that is, how many guys end up going to fucking prison for 5 years and it turns into a fucking 20 or 25 year prison sentence?
I got lucky though. I got lucky that I didn't, you know what I mean? I got lucky I didn't get caught with anything, using a piece, you know what I mean? Because there were some incidents that happened where, I got away. I don't talk about them, right? But there's a couple stabbings I did where I got away. These ones were just batteries or fighting and all that. So it wasn't as bad. And you don't really lose much time off that. But there's people, like you said, that they go in there with 5 years, and the next thing you know, they're doing life, or they get killed nowadays. Like nowadays, if you look at California Department of Corrections rehabilitations, it's totally different than when I was in there. They have more access to fucking cell phones, drugs, all this stuff out there, and there's people getting killed left and right. And they're not getting killed by rivals, they're getting killed by their own people. Some kid goes in there and owes some money on a fucking cell phone, they're killing them over owing money on a cell phone. I was like, I've never heard of that shit before. It's usually because the kid made a bad choice. So you're going to put the kid in a bad choice to where now you have to kill him by giving him a fucking cell phone. Makes no fucking sense. If not once, they've done it 3 times to one dude and they ended up killing him. Fucking, what you guys figured out the first time not to give the dude a cell phone?
Right.
But, they're hoping to put someone in a bad position to where they owe the money. Like some of these yards, that these gangs are making like $50,000 to $100,000 a month now in California. That's a lot. That's nowhere near how it was when I was out there. At all. That's a lot of fucking money.
Well, so what happened? You got out. Well, what happens when you get out? I'm gonna go out on a limb and say you didn't get a job.
No,
start selling used cars.
No, I did get a job.
Yeah, I know, but I have a feeling you didn't fucking.
I worked 2 jobs. No, I was a courier for the real estate company, which is kind of kickback. I dropped off all the loan docs and all that, and then I was doing loan processing.
Okay.
So my mom was a real estate broker. My sister was a sales rep in title, and then my wife at the time I ended up getting married to was a junior escrow officer. So I had ties in the real estate, and I was gonna start a courier company. When you have to drop off the all the different titles and all that to get them recorded or this and that. I got very familiar with the real estate stuff, right? And so I was doing that, which was cool because I could be couriering a package for a title company, while at the same time I could be couriering some other product.
Oh, okay.
You know what I'm saying? So I did plug in right off top, with the prison gang.
Right.
But I came out there, I was told I was on probation, and I got pulled into a prison gang at the time. I was a new Estadasa member. And then I became an NF associate, Nuestra Familia associate, right? And I was out there to function on the streets. And so back then, you had to go out there and you were put on probation. You had to get a job. You had to get a license, get insurance, show your parole officer that you're doing good before they would even let you function with a regiment. And a regiment's kind of like a crew for the mob, for the mafia, kind of like. But this is just Hispanic gangs. So I did all that. And within 3-4 months, I said my number in, and I get contacted by an individual named, he was telling me his name was Danny. He ends up being the high-profile informant in Operation Black Widow, right? The big indictment that the NF had. The dude Casper that you see on Gangland.
Right.
Him. He's the one that plugged me in. He's dead now, passed away about 2 years ago, but he's the one that plugged me in with another individual named Chico Rose. All these dudes get caught up in Operation Black Widow, and they all flip. You know what I'm saying? So I had 2 dudes that were ready to hang me out to dry, even though I was young in my career. And so that was how my introduction into what the prison gang stuff was like on the streets. It was all about money. That's all it was about. And you can trust nobody. It just got worse and worse.
So how does that, first of all, you had a regular job as a courier service. Like, why are you still fucking with the gang?
Because I committed myself to do it. I obligated myself. I made that commitment before I paroled. So I have to. If not, then they're going to want to kill me.
No, it's just all bad, bro. It's just all bad.
No, it is. It is all bad.
There's, so, and your wife, your wife understands this and knows this? And
my wife was young. She was only when we got together was when I got out. I think I was 23. She was 19.
So does she not understand?
She understood. She just respected it. She was, I got her a job with my sister. So all this was new to her. She went from fucking, barely getting out of high school, fucking working at Little Caesars to now she's working at a title company. And she's making good fucking money. She worked her ass off. So I would try to keep her away from that life as much as I could. You know what I'm saying? Let her work. She understood what I did, and she, for the most part, let me do what I needed to do.
So what's happening? At what point do the cops or a gang task force get on your case, or,
Well, they were on me the whole time, man, but I ended up catching a case to go back to prison, right? And it was over another NF member that got out to the streets, and he was just off the fucking hook. He was slamming meth and doing all the stuff that you're not supposed to do, and just one of those dudes that's just treacherous. He was a treacherous dude. He's the type of dude that would tie a whole family up and shit like that, right? And he wanted to go kidnap his cousin and hold him for ransom because he had used his social security number while he was in prison. So this is the level of his thinking. And then he's trying to get at these connects I know, right? And talking about, we'll go. They're talking about snatching up people's kids and holding them for ransom to fucking some of the drug connects out there. I'm like, nah, I don't want no part of this shit. And so he wanted to get his cousin, and I remember we gave him the gun. First, he was absconding, and I got him in contact with some cats from Salinas, right? But he wanted to go back and do this holiday because he wanted to get this money. So next thing you know, I'm at my house, and I look up at the fucking screen, and there he is, fucking his picture. Wanted for attempted carjacking, kidnapping, and next thing you know, he's walking through my fucking door, and he has on a garage uniform, like for the mechanics.
Right.
So, And it was just one of those crazy stories. Now, I remember before he had this young chick that he was waiting to turn 18 that was running around with him, right? Okay. And and her friend, some gay guy. So this was fucking, I'm watching the NF member who's supposed to be a fucking criminal organizational gang member, and he's doing all the shit that you're not supposed to be fucking doing. I'm like, what the fuck, man? Like, this shit isn't fucking right. I remember telling him to get out of my house when all this shit happened. So I remember this gay dude picks him up with a young chick, and this dude was very abusive in prison towards people. You know what I'm saying? That were lower rank. Me and him, we just got along, right? I got love for him, man, but some of the stuff he showed me was just the wrong way. I'll just tell you that. I will never forget him. He's fucking yelling at him in the back of the car. They're out looking for you, motherfucker. Woo, woo. I'm like, fuck, I better get out of here. So I take a cab to get my other car, and then we go to a motel, and then they hit the motel. And when they hit the motel, I wasn't able to flush all my drugs. And then the cops knew me, and they were there for him. They wanted him and stuff, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say they're coming for him though. You don't know that though. You don't realize that.
I kind of knew that. I kind of knew it afterwards. I wasn't sure.
You still got to get rid of everything.
Yeah, I couldn't find everything. She opened the door before I was ready, and I had my 9-month-old daughter at the time in the room and stuff. Right, the drugs weren't around her. I wasn't using no drugs or anything around her, and so the cop comes in and he knows me. His name's Officer Secura. He's now a lieutenant. He used to be a gang task force 20 years before. And so he goes, hey, I go, man, you ain't heard my name out there. He goes, well, I heard you know fucking Luis Gonzalez. That was dude's name. We chose. Right. I'm like, fuck. And they're like, well, man, we'll let you go if you tell us where he's at. Well, I don't know where he's at. You gonna let me go? And so they started trying to fucking interrogate me. I go, I don't know what you guys are talking about, this and that, right? And then they just put me in the cop car. They tried to interrogate my wife at the time, and they told her that I told them that I knew where he was at, that they were going to take my daughter. I told them I didn't care if they were going to take my daughter. I was going to do this and that. They just tried to fucking pump fear into her. And they asked her if she knew where he was at. And she denied. She said no. So she ends up getting released. I go to jail. And so she's 19. Our daughter's maybe like 7 months old. She goes to the house. She calls up homeboy. Because at that time, we had to call our IDs, remember? On the phone. We didn't have cell phones yet. And tells him, like, hey, get out from where you're at. The cops searched his house. They got every number on this phone. They're probably going to hit up every place. So he was able to get away because of her calling him up. Okay, so she went from there to, like, 2 counties away. Say, like, 2 counties in a state away. As soon as she gets there, here comes the cops hitting my mom's house. Right? And that's when they started to threaten her to take my daughter and all this stuff, that talking about that I'm a prison gang member and that I'm part of this and part of that, and that she should just leave me and, tell us where he's at, the other guy. And she doesn't know anything. They keep on threatening to take my daughter in. So finally, they leave. A couple of days later, right, they try to call her up on the phone to threaten her. Well, they did after the cops left. My mom had her notary license, right, as did her partner, right, who owned the real estate branch, right? They went and notarized giving my daughter custody to my mom. So when the cops were making those threats, we said, you can't. We already gave custody to my mom.
Right.
When they threatened to arrest her, she goes, where do I got to go? They told her to go to the Burger King right there in San Jose, Milpitas border. They never showed up. So we got over on that one, but they tried to pump as much fear on that, That's what type of my first wife, that's how she was. She didn't want to be part of the lifestyle, but she knew what she needed to do. That was that one incident right there.
So what's happening with you? They've got you at what, the county jail?
At the county jail. So I ended up taking over the county jail. All the OGs are over here in the old jail though, and it's a section called Little Max. And so I'm trying to get over there, and so I'm having her go visit over there. And I'm having her find friends to go visit. So I'm in communication with them. And so I end up getting moved by classification down there, and I bail out. When I bail out, I go to my hearing for the case, and they put me on the stand for a Romero motion, which is to dismiss your strikes. Now, my own attorney got me on the fucking stand and said, aren't you a prison gang member? Or validated as one. And I did not expect this. And he's trying to justify that to the courts why I couldn't go into drug treatment programs or anything like that. That was going to help my case. So I'm on the stand not expecting somebody. No, I ain't no prison gang member. isn't your fucking motto blood in, blood out? I'm like, fucking, hey, this shit sounds like a fucking movie. It was like more than what it really was.
Right.
Like, I was out on the streets, bail. I mean, I was out for about 2 months out on bail because I just did 11 months. I went from checking into an SLE, right, for only 2 days, right? 3 days later, I was in San Quentin.
So, I mean, back to your lawyer, like, doesn't he understand that you're going to deny all that? Did he think you were going to admit to it, or he just wanted on the record?
I don't know what he was thinking, to be honest with you. I didn't expect it, man. Like, you know, I wasn't even ready for the hearing that day. You know, I think he just wanted to get rid of me as a client, probably. You know, we got his buddy's work. Let's see if I can, let's see if we can get him off or not. You know, and that's what happened.
So how much time did you get?
32 months.
32 months.
Yeah.
Where'd you do that time?
Corcoran. Went to San Quentin, then Corcoran again.
Okay.
Same old chain.
So what happens while you're there? I mean, nothing, just...
Well, prison politics is prison politics. I was running San Quentin for a minute at that time. I was the RSD over there. Got to Corcoran. He was pretty much kicked on back. We didn't have really no issues at that time, like politically. And I was right there with the deal. The pod I was in was basically headquarters because that's where the regiment commander was. So we had no issues. It was an easy program. I already knew the routine. I already knew what needed to be done. So I was just there doing my job. I was actually the maestro, which is teacher for all the Norteños that were there. So all the young Northerners or even older Northerners, I was the one that was schooling all of them, doing their education, which is we have them write essays, give them topics, discipline, whatever it may be. We had a whole phase list that each Norteño had to go through while they were there, which was different educational phases. So every Norteño was on a different page. So it was a lot of work for me. But it kept me busy, though. You know, and with that, I was doing the legal law, and then I was studying at the time the stock market. That was my next thing that I wanted to do when I get out there with all the illegal money I was trying to make, right? I was trying to diversify my portfolio and do all that stuff, man. I had like fucking plans, you know what I mean? Which they were working for a minute, right? But when you get a parole violation and you have your money invested in penny stocks, it's not always a good idea when you can't sell.
Right.
You know? So I lost a lot of money on penny stocks when I was playing, though.
Okay, so I mean, what happens? So do you get back out? Like it's uneventful when you go in. I mean, nothing happens. You get back out. Your wife still.
I get back out to the streets and I go back to doing my thing again, which is
your wife was down with you the whole time.
Yeah,
man, that's a solid chick.
Yeah, so you know, we're doing the same thing. I had my own little crew, so I had a little bit more jurisdiction, and you know, we were taxing, extorting people, selling dope, all the stuff that you could think of, any type of organized crime on the streets. You know, every month I had to submit a certain quota, you know, for how much I produced, and then it just gets political on the streets as well, though, man. And you know, there was a lot of hate, a lot of jealousy. Everybody's campaigning against each other, or you know, a lot of betrayal. Just I got one of those situations where one of these dudes was a young homeboy of mine. He ended up trying to. He had issues with me because for a minute when he was younger, he was from a hood called BMN, which is basically a second generation of my hood, basically in a sense, right? And he was younger. And I remember, like back in '95, I smacked the shit out of him when he was younger one time, you know. And he ended up being my little homeboy though. And when he was locked up, I seen his wife, who was my homegirl. I gave her money for diapers and stuff like that. Me and my wife would see her, talk to her, and whatnot. And he gets out, and he wanted what I had, the position I had, the leadership I had. He wanted to be who I was. And so when he came out, I didn't want him to work with me. So I directed him to work with somebody else. Because at that time, a lot of people who were paroling, they would get in contact with me in that area to who they were going to work with. So I put him with some OG.
So what are we doing? What's going on? What happened?
So I guess we're talking about the guy who tried to sexually assault my wife.
Oh, shit. Okay.
Well, you know, at that time, since 2001 to 2006, you know, I went in for about 25 months for a little bit, but I was out in the streets, generating a lot of money, involved in a lot of different criminal activities, right? Everything from extortion to laying people down to drug dealing, whatever it may have been. right? Taxing people, finding people, whatever the organization asked me to do. Go out there and debt collect, I debt collected. So at this time, I was being groomed for a certain position to take over out there in the streets and being recruited as an A&F member at the time. And so people were touching base from different prisons with me, and people that were coming out were being sent to me, and I put them with an existing crew that they were going to be part of. So I put him basically with the crew with a dude that was a leader because he was a knucklehead, but he was my homeboy. Now, we were already having issues real quick out there in the streets because where my area was at, he was out there trying to do business. And so one time I showed up to a trap spot, which a trap spot is where you have people that are making your money right there.
Right.
Basically, my house, I go in there and get the money. And my wife's there with me, and I get dropped off over there, and then he asked me if he can get a ride with my wife. I have no problem with that. I give his lady a ride home or anything. So in the process of that happening, she was pissed off at me, and she said, let's smoke that joint, spark that joint. And he told her, honestly, I'm going to fuck the shit out of you. She goes, you want to get killed? She goes, nah, we're the ones taking care of shit on the streets, man, that I'll have her killed for trying to cross him up. And then he tried to sexually grab her, right? She didn't tell me at first. She thought that I put him up to try to doing this stuff, right? So when I found out, I flipped. I was like, I'm going to kill this dude. You know what I'm saying? Went to the homeboy, told him what happened. He says, okay, let's get this dude, right? I said, we can't. He's working with Lencho, who's a high-ranking member. We have to go through him. Now, this dude's promising Lencho that he can do this, that his lady's connected to the cartels and all this shit, right? So he's presenting himself as like the golden goose, right? So I'm requesting that we whack this dude, take him out, because this dude's not even a member. And Lencho's saying, no, hold up. We'll deal with it in due time. I'm like, this is my wife, bro. Like, she's done nothing but help the organization. She's not even a member. She doesn't believe in none of this shit, but she does what I tell her. And it became one of those, I took it really personal, man. Like, here I am. I've made sacrifices. I've got time. I've done everything I was supposed to do, right? This dude disrespects my wife, and you're telling me I can't handle my business? So I was going to handle my business anyways when I seen him. I was going to go against the grain. And then I ended up getting caught up on the case, and that's when the gang investigative units were coming to see me and talking about that they were trying to put a green light on me for a minute. I'm like, green light? I guess because I was pushing issues out there. Because I had requested all kinds of stuff. I'd say, okay, I brought up certain people's names. I brought up Chuco's name and everybody else's name in regard to my wife. You know what I mean? And I was pressing certain things, I guess, that they felt that, being young, right? That they didn't like it. They didn't like what they were hearing. You know what I'm saying? So I was becoming a problem. I withstood it though. At that time, the dude that I had the issues with that assaulted my wife ends up coming to DVI, Tracy. I'm running the whole prison at that time. I ended up having dude hit, right?
So can I ask a question real quick?
Yeah, go ahead.
What sentence did you get to get you there? Like what?
Now, San Jose PD had a hold. They were trying to get me to work with him. They just let the parole violation up. They didn't file charges on me yet.
Oh, okay, so they're just trying to get you kind of hemmed up and off the street.
So they had me up in the streets, and I had been contemplating whether I was going to work with them or not because of the situation. And so I ended up dealing with dude, and at that point, I'm like, man, I had to go through all this, and I ended up dealing with him, and now it's okay because he owes this dude money. And at that time, I was done. I was like, I'm cool. I can't fuck with none of these dudes. There's no loyalty. The betrayal, like the whole situation with my wife rubbed me wrong. You know what I'm saying? And I caught a case because of how I felt about that situation. And when I found out that they were trying to put a green light on me, I'm like, dude, I owe these dudes nothing. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
These guys over here condoning the dude that should be on Megan's law, a sexual predator. Well, you're the one that's victim then if you're okay with it. Why did I have to wait till he owed you money and now you're saying he's all bad for me to fucking have him hit? He should have been hit off top. So I felt disrespected. And I'm like, you know what? Fuck these dudes. And so prior to getting out, that's when the gang investigative unit and the FBI came and got at me, and I flipped. You know what I'm saying? I said, fuck these guys. If I'm going to go out, you're going to have a green light on me anyways. So I might as well go after the same dudes that disrespected me and my wife. And that's exactly what I did.
Right. Well, listen, real quick. What happened? You said the guy showed up at the prison that you were running.
He showed up.
Said you put a hit out on him. Well,
there was no hit on him, right? When he got there, I used other reasons to have him hit. He said that he had status, right, which he didn't have, because I remember telling him that. That was one. And number two, he was speaking bad on an NF member's son. The dude that he was working with, he was speaking bad on his son. So I utilized all those to greenlight him and have him hit. None of it had to do with what happened with my wife, because if I would have did that, it would look too personal. But it was personal.
Right.
I was going to have him hit. One way or another, he was going to get hit. I was going to find a way to have him hit. You know what I'm saying? And it would have been justified. So he gets hit. He goes to PC. And yeah, I could have said, okay, you know what? Everything's all good now. But I was like, nah, fuck this shit. You know, and at that time, I'd already talked to them. So I already knew pretty much that was going to eventually come out if I decided to recant. So that's what
What does the FBI say? What do they say when they come to you?
They basically, you know, they already knew who I was, right, from Operation Black Widow. And they asked me what my agenda was. I said, my agenda was to get these people right here off. I said, you know what, it's revenge, basically. Because I could have took down a whole lot of people, but it ended up only being 3. Within 2 months, they ended up cutting off the investigation short, because at that time I was playing both sides. I was talking to them, the feds, the DEA, all of them, right? But at the same time, still going out there committing crimes.
So this isn't in the prison.
So streets now.
Okay.
They're paroled. So when I paroled, I was instantly working with. They had all these departments that were working, and so they ended up trying it as a state case, and it was only 3 cases. And they tried to have me do more. I wouldn't do it, because I said that this is personal. You know what I'm saying? This has nothing to do with just me. I wasn't trying to get out of no time. I didn't care if I was going to do time, because they caught me with a gun and some dope, right?
Right.
Some meth, and a gun. And they were watching me when they caught me. It was basically surveillance. And so, but I went to grand jury testimony. I ended up doing 3 different control buys, one for a PCP, one for a gun, and then one for like a pound of meth. You know what I'm saying? Then I turned over the safe that we had of all the dope. And when I went to the grand jury, right, which was a trip, because they had me in a motel, and it was like the fucking movies. They'd have fucking like me get into a car with another cop car behind me and another cop car in front of you just to go to testify and shit, right? I was like, this isn't that big of a deal. But I testified against 3 people on control buys, and they got indicted. And the interesting thing about it was none of the cases that they built off me did these guys really get any time. But once they got caught up and they were behind the walls, they started doing this on the phone and doing deals. They got caught on a whole different indictment that caught them up.
Right.
You know,
that got them a bunch of time.
Yeah. So I testified in grand jury, and you know, I remember the questions that they asked me. The DA said, you know, were you offered any time? I said, nah, I wasn't offered any time or anything. I go, I'm not tripping up the time I got to do. I did this because of the disrespect, betrayal that was done onto me and my family. You know, my wife being sexually assaulted, and you guys just fucking acting like it's okay. No, it ain't okay. Fuck you guys. And so, I don't believe really in snitching or anybody doing that, but I don't judge anybody that does. You know what I'm saying? Because look what I did. You know what I'm saying? And I don't try to justify it, but I don't have no regret that I did it either, though.
Right.
You look at those guys as they're no different off than a sexual predator. If you're okay with my wife being sexually assaulted, then you're no better off than a fucking sexual predator yourself. Right. Because on top, you should have been like, you know what, let's get this dude. And that's when I finally realized that lifestyle was not about any loyalty. It's about every man for himself. You know, and so I went out with a bang. You know, that was in 2007. 17 years ago. You know, and I've been away from that life for a long time. I started for a minute. Went back into an addiction for a while. Right after I was in the, what do you call it's not the it's like a relocation program. They don't change your identity or nothing. They just put you in a place away from your home. They take care of your rent for a little bit. I was only in that for 1 month, right? Got kicked out. Okay.
Now that rules very well.
I was young and hard-headed. And so I could have been in that program for like 6 years, believe it or not. You know, and I could have got my rent paid and worked and did all this shit, but I didn't. So I only had it for a month. So next thing you know, I'm just out there in the streets doing the same stuff I was doing before, but without having any prison obligations and stuff, man. And it wasn't until my youngest son got put in CPS care, and I had a baby with some other chick, and she was kind of a drug addict herself, right? That's when everything changed. that's when I started like, you know what, man, if he needs somebody to be there for him. So I started doing all the things. I was CPS said I was the best dad that they ever had. They wanted me to do a parent partner program where I taught to other dads. Here I am, ex-prison gang member, tattoos, ex-felon, all this stuff. I got the reunification services. My son gave it to me before the mom first. Right.
Right.
Within that, we had services for a year. After they were done, she ends up relapsing. I ended up filing for full custody. I had full custody of my son in 2018. So here I am fucking doing all the stuff I was supposed to. I was going into programs. I was going to, church every week. I was donating time at the school, doing all the stuff that I never did before with I had 2 other daughters, Well,
what, can I interrupt real quick? What happened to your first wife?
Because of all the stuff she left. Okay. Yeah, she left. And she hasn't even dated anybody or got married or anything ever again. It was a rough situation. Yeah, she's still out there. My daughter's all grown up. They're all adults now. My daughter's a straight A student. Other ones in high school, so they're doing good for themselves. But I wasn't in their lives like I should have been. That I have regret for, and that was because I was battling my own demons after leaving the gay lifestyle. Like, there's a lot of regret still because that's all I knew my whole life was the gangs lifestyle and the crimes. And now here I am changing it, trying to be a better person. It wasn't until later on that I was able to fulfill that. Then I started being a better parent. Then I ended up full custody of my youngest son. I was doing all those things, and then COVID happened. And that's what kind of changed a lot of things in my life was the COVID thing. Because I had custody of my kid at the time. I wasn't able to go to meetings, and meetings kind of got stale for a minute. And so I found YouTube to be another outlet to try to help people.
Yeah, I was going to say, where were you living at this time? Did you go right back to the same old neighborhood? I mean,
it was in the Bay Area, but nowhere close.
Okay. Yeah, because I was wondering if you were concerned about retaliation of
First time I was only 10 minutes from my neighborhood. I was out there. Like, there was attempts on my life out there. You know what I'm saying? But I was ready for whatever came my way. I didn't care. You know what I'm saying? It was like how you say it? I was ready to go there. Put it that way. You know what I'm saying? Influenced by the drugs and all that too. That kind of made me not really give a fuck out there. Right. Later, once I got off the drugs, I started to care, and that's when I started to try to be a parent. I started to do everything different, and I wanted to help people because you learn about the best spiritual solution you have for yourself is when you're helping others. So that's when I started to sponsor men, and I had commitments, and I had all kinds of stuff going on, and then COVID happened. So that's how I got involved in the YouTube stuff. Was watching the videos, prison gang stuff, and then there was a friend that had a channel, and he read his book on there, and I'm in the book. I'm like, fuck, I could do this shit too. So next thing you know, I started a YouTube channel, and here we are now.
Right. How long? What year was that? 2018 or 19?
2020.
20. Okay. Yeah, because the early 20 was COVID. Okay. So how long did it take for you to do that? Was it like in the middle of the year or?
I was working with one channel called The Stories Written by a Current Prisoner.
That's your buddy?
That's my buddy. I was working with him, and I brought some other people on. And then two of us elected to start our own channel too. So that's when we had a comics perspective. It was just me and another guy at first.
Okay.
And
what happened? What happened to him?
I think the first year was really good money. I think the second year we started to see a decline. Right. And we weren't on the same page, and he wanted to just do something different. He wanted to work. So yeah. The one that kind of started all the stuff, he didn't mind giving me the channel. You know what I mean? So even though he put just as much work into the channel, I tell him that all the time. But there's only enough to really make for one person to really make it on this channel at that time because we weren't getting the support. There's a lot of hate when you start doing a YouTube channel and you start to succeed. Yeah, we were having lives where we were having lives. Our lives were fucking classic. We were making $500, $1,000 lives all the time. People were just enjoying it. We had people joking around. Next thing you know, you have to hate. And next thing you know, everything you say, people hold you to it. You could just say one little thing, and people are gonna fucking remember that. And if you change your mind on that, you're this and that. You're a liar. You're a fucking bullshitter.
Oh, no, bro, there's so much there's such fucking assholes out there. It's like,
yeah, it's bad. It got to the point where they were attacking my wife. Well, I ended up getting remarried. They were attacking her. They were attacking me. They attacked my kid. All kinds of shit. Like, they didn't have no fucking boundaries. I'd never seen nothing like it. And I think it's other YouTube channels that were doing it, to be honest with you.
everybody's a badass in the comment section, honestly, typically when I come back and respond to people, 90% of those people, like, and I'm not talking about violence. I mean, they're just calling you names or saying stupid shit. And I just address them. And a lot of times they're like, bro, I didn't mean nothing by that. I've been drinking, or, they start backpedaling immediately.
These were trolls. These were people like, it got real nasty. I never seen nothing like it, man. And a lot of it was, they were associated with people I used to associate with because there was certain stuff that was put out there that only they knew.
Right.
And you see the whole different sides. Like, I came into this not to fucking troll people or to attack people. I came in to try to help people. It made me try to take a step back. And I was like, it changed my outlook about YouTube for a little bit. It's hard to help people on here. You know what I'm saying? Or be of service. So I try to help people offline. I have better results. You know what I'm saying? So I don't try to cater myself to be a positive channel or any of that. I'm a channel. It's entertainment. It's information. Whether it's talking about gangs, interviews, whatever it may be, it is what it is. And so no matter what, you're always going to have someone that's going to critique what you're doing. I'm always going to get fucking attacked for fucking when I flipped. Fuck
right.
Rat, what's that, man? You ain't going to tell that to my face, are you? You know what I'm saying? The whole thing that gets me on that is this. Everybody will be quick to use that, but no one says anything about why I did it. They don't talk about the fucking sexual assault. They don't talk about none of that. You know what I mean? To me, that's more of an issue that, look, these dudes allow it. They're just like a predator. Fuck these dudes.
Well, it's that I think people say that to make themselves feel better. Like they can elevate themselves. It's a way to elevate themselves over you. They don't know what the situation is. You know how many times I've talked to somebody who talks about, oh, this guy's a rat and this guy's a rat. And you're like, okay, you cooperated. And they're like, yeah, but it was different. You don't understand what happened. Well, that's just
different.
It's always different. You know what I'm saying? Like, I get it. Everybody's got their reason.
Everybody has that same excuse, right? So
right.
It's just like, you know what? If you want to be in the streets, it's not acceptable. That's just the point blank.
Right.
Do I care? I don't care. You know what I mean? It is what it is.
I mean, listen, like, to me, when I made that decision, it was like 12 years off of my sentence. And periodically somebody may call you a rat. Or you do the 12 years and people say that's a stand-up guy. There was no decision. I made that decision so quick. I was like, I'll take fucking, you can call me a rat every once in a while. I'm not going to do 12 extra years. Fuck that.
Yeah.
No. So, and then it's like, the other thing is I love it when people say, you're a lying piece of shit. No.
Yep,
I told the truth. You're a lying rat. No, I'm an honest rat. You're lying.
See, I get told that, you're a dropout, you're this nest. Like, look, man, I function on the highest level you can. I was part of the organization. How are you gonna sit there and tell me what the life's about when I lived it? I have nothing. I have no actions to grind against the organization. It's me against those individuals who, two of them already know good. They've already fucked up off their own. Only one's still in good standings. But so I have no actions to grind with the previous group. You know what I'm saying? I don't try to fucking support or go against them. You know what I mean? It is what it is.
What is your channel? Sorry, what does your channel focus on? What do you focus on the channel?
Well, see, when it comes to like the prison gang stuff, a lot of people call me the historian. Like, I know a lot about everybody. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was involved with like Mexican mafia members, NLR, ABs, NF. So a lot of it is just about prison stories. I have some people come on to do interviews. Sometimes I'll do some historical stuff, like, what happened during this incident. Sometimes I'll bring a common topic up. And then sometimes I'll do current events. But with current events, I'm very careful because it involves criminal cases that are current. Right. So I only put out there what is not going to affect anybody in their case. Like, I use the word alleged at times. But even if you speak on a case, it's all hearsay. People don't realize that. You can talk on an open criminal case as long as you're not part of it. And anything you say is only hearsay. None of it can be used in court. People forget about that. Unless you're talking about it from a point that you were involved, then they can use that. But if you're just speaking, okay, this is hearsay, this is what I feel or think or how it looks, it's only hearsay. But I'm still a little bit, selective on that because, I don't want to wake up any other giants that maybe have issues with what I do.
Right.
Well, I like to keep the channel diverse. I've had rappers on, I've had, actors, I've had everything on there. So there's no limitations. I've had cops on here, other gang members, rivals, everything, and I've had my stories. So it's just a perspective of the life that I lived through my eyes, what I experienced, what I see. Everybody has their own truth of what they went through and what they've seen. And so when I speak only from what I know and what I see.
Yeah. Hey, so how many videos a week do you put out?
Anywhere from like 3 to like 10. Because I have another reaction channel, but that's just small. I'm waiting to get some more equipment because, like, you know, I'll briefly talk about this. I'm out on bail right now.
Okay.
You know,
Well, you mentioned that.
2 aggravated assaults. You know what I'm saying? I'm not going to talk about it because I have not gave no statements. I go to court this Friday and I may be going to trial soon. You know? But they have offered me a deal down to 2 years bottom, 4-year top. And this is on a case where I allegedly shot 2 people, they're saying. So right. 2 years, 4 years, it tells you something that they're offering me that already. It kind of tells you about the case.
Right.
I'll leave it there. So, yeah. So that's where I'm at today. And I want to get back to the stuff I used to, which was all like a message, you know, like YouTube's easy to get consumed in it. I don't know if you go through that. Sometimes I get consumed in fucking my old past. Like, okay, Flaco. I'm not really Flaco in real life off YouTube. I'm fucking William. I'm somebody totally different, or I want to be something different. But sometimes I get caught up in this alter ego of who I used to be. That I'm that old person sometimes right after I come out of doing these videos, and I don't see it. But I've been pointing that out a few times.
Yeah, you know, what's funny is when I started doing YouTube, there were so many things that I would see other YouTubers do that I just thought, that's just so stupid. Like, these guys are consumed by this whole thing. That's ridiculous. But then you start putting out the videos, and then you start putting in the work, and then you start realizing like, you know, like it gets consuming because you're like, I've worked so hard for this.
This should be a 50,000 video, 100,000 view video. Why do I only have, yeah, I go through that too. Like, and I brought in some fucking key interviews. Like, I go, I know this is a banger. Why am I getting the views I deserve?
Or how many have you done where you've done a video and like, as soon as we get off, I'm like, that's like, it wasn't all that. That wasn't that great. You know, whatever. That won't get any views. And then boom, it gets fucking 60,000 views or 70,000. I'm like, are you fucking serious? That was a horrible fucking story. It's a horrible video.
I see this all the time. The algorithms like women. I can't figure out either.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
I figured out. I've tried everything. I've tried to fucking, and you don't need to put the fucking hashtags or nothing. I put out videos with no hashtags. It gets 100,000 views.
Yeah.
I put the one that's perfect. You know, I think, okay, this is the video. Look at the title. The thumbnail looks good. Okay, this is going to go. Right time. Nobody's hot right now. It's going to hit the algorithm. Fuck. 500 views an hour. I'm like, fuck.
Yeah. Yeah, man. I you know, I don't know. Whatever. We'll see. You know, it's funny too because the first thing everybody asks is, how many subs do you have? It's like you said, subs don't mean anything. The subs are just bragging rights. So if you could say, oh, I got 200,000 subs, like people are like, oh, wow, they're impressed. But you could have 200,000 subs, your videos are getting 3,000 views and you're making no money. And I know guys that have 20,000 subs and every video they put out gets 100, 200,000. Like, I'm like, why don't you have more subs?
I know some dudes where when you watch them get their views, you're like, fucking, how the fuck are they getting these views too?
Yeah.
Seriously. You know what I mean? I like different channels. I like different types of content, but if you have 200,000 subscribers like you, right? I think you should at least get 25,000 every fucking video.
Yeah. Wouldn't you? Yeah, that would be nice.
Right?
It's not the way it is.
My goal is at least 10,000 per video, but it doesn't happen. Yeah. At one point we were hot. Every video was over 10,000. Every video.
But now, that just like you said, that's the algorithm. Like you said, you guys were doing really good for a while, then it cooled off, and then it'll come back up. And I have like 2 months where it's like, fuck, this is it, bro. Like, we're doing great. And we have 2 months where it's like, Jesus, bro.
Then you see those that just take off and they keep on going. You're like, what the fuck they got that I got right now?
I've had videos where we put out the video and it got 8,000 views, 10,000 views. 3 months later, in a week, it gets another 20,000. And then a week later, it gets another 30. And then next thing you know, within 2 months, it's got 100 or it's got 90 or 100,000 views. And you're like, what happened in the interim of that 2 months that suddenly it took off?
Yeah, I've had that happen too. Like, I'm not watching it. I go get the video. That's 40,000 views. Where did it get those views?
It's insane. I mean, yeah, you just can't, just like you said, I can't figure it out. But so I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing because at this point it's paying my bills. I like doing it. I like talking to, the guys that I get to talk to. I think it's it's great. And it's great to get these, where these guys, even though I don't even try and do this, where these guys are like, bro, like, you got me through a tough time in my life, or what you said was inspirational, or I look up to you. And to me, I'm not trying to be inspirational at all. But it is still pretty cool when someone says, wow, bro, like, I watched that video and that fucking, that really moved me. Like, that really got me through a tough period of time, or whatever it was. That's a good feeling.
Yeah, because the thing about YouTube that's great is you get to push your narrative, your story, your truth of what you want people to hear. This is your brand. And that's why I try to respect every other YouTuber out there, but it doesn't mean that they always get the respect in return.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, how do you feel about this interview?
It's good.
Anything else you want to go over?
I'm good. Is there any questions you want to ask? You sure?
Yeah, no. I mean, I'm curious about the case, but we talked about it before, and you obviously don't want to get into it, so I totally understand that.
I can't because of the attorney stuff, I'm still,
yeah.
It's a weak case, though, man. It's one shot hit two people, so yeah, it's a self-defense case basically.
Yeah, I get it.
So we gotta see what happened. Pretty much this person was wanting to attack me for some time and tried to attack me.
Right.
Even though I'm not supposed to have a gun, I'd rather have one than not have one sometimes.
Hey, I appreciate you guys watching the video. If you liked the interview, please do me a favor. Go to the subscription bar, click the subscription, subscribe, hit the bell. I know I said that all fucked up, but hit the bell, share the video, do the whole thing, leave me a comment. Also, if you want to check out Flaco's channel, I'm going to leave the links to both of his YouTube channels. He's got two of them. We'll leave both links in the description box. Really appreciate you guys. Also, do me a favor. Please consider joining my Patreon. It starts at $10 a month. It really does help. Thank you.